Milestones of the Century. During the early 1930s, hunger and depression plagued the nation from the farms to the slums of the big cities. It was an era of continued lawlessness as the squalid back alleys and streets of broken tenements erupted their spawn of crime. Children imitated the racketeers of the underworld in their real-life game of cops and robbers. These were the last days of the peephole and the speakeasy. Many frightened and insecure men needed a drink more than ever. In 1931, there were 4,500,000 men unemployed. The figure doubled during 1932. Many men confronted by these statistics tried to forget in liquor. Some even turned to crime. In 1933, Prohibition ceased to exist, but crime, unfortunately, could not be repealed. Despite strong measures to repress organized crime, the nationwide syndicate grew in power. Many of the big ones got away. Some little hoods were landed and were very repentant.
Do you really think, Manry, that if you had your life to live all over again, we could follow along the same line?
Well, after all, Manry, you'll admit that a lifetime doesn't pay.
No, it don't.
And you're willing that if you ever get a chance again, to go along the straight line.
Yeah, sure.
In March of 1934, Roger Touhy and his gang were tried for the kidnapping of John Factor, whose courageous testimony dealt a heavy blow against the brutal intimidations of crime.
Be seated. On anybody in the courtroom now, it was on Dempster Road that kidnapped you.
Yes, sir.
Will you point that person out?
Schaefer.
This was Gus Schaefer.
Anybody in the basement of the first house that you were held in?
Yes, sir.
Do you see that person in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Will you point him out?
Cater.
Albert Cater.
Held captive. During the 12 days, did you see the face of any other person that you now see in the courtroom?
I did.
Will you point that person out?
Roger Touhy.
Roger Touhy, head of the kidnap gang.
A ransom letter to my wife. Roger Touhy was in front of me with a blanket with another man.
Factor continued with his damning testimony.
Visited you at the second house while you were a captive.
He did.
What had he done to you, if anything?
He kicked me in the stomach and then sort of lifted me up on the bed, and while sitting there was pounding on my kidney.
The verdict, 99 years, a victory for law and order.